Hi, I'm Jaffe Jones, the author of Eat Vegan on $4 a Day and The Veg Coach, and I'm the broccoli rep because who else is the broccoli rep? I am making a new recipe today out of my new cookbook, which should come out sometime next year. This one is called Jessica's Filling Phyllo Fishless Dish, or at least that's the name of it right now. It might change before the time of publication. And what I have started here is a cup of lentils with some onions. I've already prepped this so I don't have to edit this too much. And 2 cups of vegetable broth, which I use with a cup of water and a tablespoon of the dry broth because that is the cheapest way to make it. And of course I'm all about doing food and doing recipes for cheap. And in this skillet we have some onions and also some vegetable broth. I'm going to be adding, now that I cooked that for a little bit, I'm going to be adding some long grain rice. Now I'm going to take some long grain rice and add it to a second pot which has onions and vegetable broth. And we'll cook that for about 40 minutes. The next thing we're going to do is spray a small skillet with just a little bit of non-stick oil and put the mushrooms in. In a small bowl, we're going to use this egg replacer and put a 1/4 cup of that. And when I made this for my kids, I always used real eggs. Back in the days when I did not believe or know enough that a vegan diet is very healthy for entire families at all stages of life. And this was 30 years ago, so there wasn't a lot of information out there like there is now about how healthy a plant-based diet can be for so many stages of life, pretty much all stages of life. Next, we add the water to the egg replacer. It's about a 1-to-4 ratio of water to the powder. And we will stir it up. And this will be used to put in the rice and bean mixture, and it will hold them together as we put it inside the phyllo dough. Now the phyllo dough I've had thawing for about 2 hours. And we're going to unwrap that and put it in our greased bowl, or lightly sprayed bowl. Not too heavy on the grease, but just enough to keep it from sticking. So it's important to try and find a happy balance between making things you love and adding just a teens of oil or spray, and I do just mean the teens because it's so calorie dense, but just a little bit to keep things from sticking. The next thing we've done is cut up the dill and the parsley. It smells so good, and it's so worth it to use fresh herbs like this. And then we are going to either spray a bowl like this, or you can use a brush with just a little bit of olive oil to spread over the inside. And this is just to keep the phyllo dough from sticking. And this brush wants to shed just a little bit. I think it was once upon a time some cornstalk. So we just spread this evenly over the inside so that our phyllo dough will not stick or burn, hopefully. The oven is being preheated to 350 degrees, and the mushrooms are cooked. And we have 2 separate pots, just for review. One has the rice and one has the lentils, because when we start adding this to the phyllo mixture, it is going to be layered along with the mushrooms. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Now we're going to add the parsley and the dill to the cooked rice. And then the final thing we're going to do before we assemble our mixture is add the egg replacer to the rice. And we'll mix it up real well. And as you can see, when you add the fresh herbs and spread it around, it's just so colorful. cook those herbs at all. Then we very carefully start playing with the phyllo dough. Take it out of the wrapper. And a lot of people are kind of scared of phyllo dough because it's so delicate. But really, once you start working with it, it is quite easy and fun, really, to play around with. And you want to just unroll it like this and put it on we'll put it on a plate. And there you go. Now, once it's ready to go, you want to start working with it pretty quickly because it can dry out and then it starts to tear. So just make sure it's all spread out. And we have greased our casserole dish. So what we're going to do is just put it in here a few layers at a time. And as you start working with this, you want to just spray it a little bit. Now, the more traditional recipes call for putting butter or egg wash in between all these layers. So we're just trying to compromise a little bit and don't want to use a lot of oil or a lot of egg replacer here, just because it'll make it kind of hard to work with. So this is going to be the base of the casserole dish, and you just want to have maybe 4 or 5 of these layers for the bottom. And we're only using half of a box of phyllo dough. And you just kind of angle these in here, sort of like wrapping a present, one layer at a time, and you just want to cover the entire part of the casserole dish so that it's just going to hang over the sides a little bit like that. Okay, now we're ready to start putting in our layers. So now we've got the bottom of the casserole dish covered with the phyllo dough. Next, we'll start adding the different layers. We'll start with the lentils. And you just want to cover the bottom of the dish with one thin layer of lentils. We'll probably end up doing about 2 or 3, maybe 4 layers of these, depending how big your casserole dish is. So we've got the lentils on the bottom, maybe just one more spoonful. And you notice I'm using a slotted spoon so you don't catch a lot of the gravy, which will kind of make it soggy. And then the next layer will be the rice with its lovely herbs. You can use salt and pepper to your taste if you want, although I did not use any. Don't tell my hubby. Nope. We try and sneak in those healthy things every once in a while, you know. Just do the best we can. And if you make something really pretty and tasty enough, sometimes they just don't mind that it's vegan. That's always been my philosophy. If it tastes good, who cares what kind of label you stick on it? Although you and I know that a vegan label is a good one. And then the next layer is going to be the mushrooms, again using the slotted spoon. And you just want to spread a nice little layer over the top, and it looks like we'll have enough for 2 layers of mushrooms. You can cut the mushrooms up smaller if you like. I did not. And then we are back now to the lentils, and we can discard the bay leaves because we don't need those anymore. And I think we'll go heavy on the mushrooms. It looks like, heavy on the lentils. It looks like we're going to have a lot of mushrooms here. And depending what kind of mushrooms you use, sometimes, and how long you cook them, they'll expand more. So if it looks like you have one more level or layer of lentils, that is quite fine. Now the idea is to do this very quickly because our phyllo dough, once it starts getting unwrapped, after it's thawed out for a couple hours, it will start drying out. So you want to make sure that you get this done as quickly as you can. Now back to the rice, and I think we'll try and it's all out, we'll spread it evenly. I just love the smell of this rice. I could eat it right now. Because it's really worth waiting to put it into this lovely, lovely dish. The original recipe of this was made heavily with eggs, like the kind that are not in this recipe, so it's important to try and find substitutes if you're going to be sticking to that plant-based diet, which I know you want to because you get so much energy and health in a plant-based diet. I do 5K races. I usually place in my age group. Did my first marathon about a year and a half ago and was the fifth oldest to finish the Palm Beaches Marathon. So it is really fun to eat a plant-based diet. All right, we're going with our last layer of lentils. And it won't be long before we're going to pop this in the oven. I have preheat the oven to 350 degrees. And you can see all of the liquid there that I am not getting into this. Now you can certainly drain it before you start adding the layers. You get a little bit of liquid, it's not going to hurt. Alright, there is our last little decorative layer of lentils. Now this is all going to be covered up by the final topping of phyllo dough, which is very cool. It's just almost like, I know one of the things that I miss the most, not eating the previous diet that I used to eat, was baklava. And baklava, actually you can make vegan baklava now, which is very cool, but it's made from phyllo dough. So we're going to take our last layers here. You can see it's already starting to tear because it's drying out. So you really probably should keep a towel over this as you work with it, but in the interest of time, I am not doing that. So you want to brush each layer of phyllo dough, either spray it or use just a little bit of the oil. And again, this is to keep all of it from just globbing up and becoming one huge hunk and burning and sticking and all that. So if you're going to be using phyllo dough, you need to do something to keep it from sticking. And you can see there it's tearing just a little bit. We'll put that over. And in the more traditional recipes, they use the eggs to wash down the phyllo dough each time you put a new layer on. So instead I am using egg replacer and I'm using oil. And you don't have to use all these sheets. I like to just because I like phyllo dough. And most of it's vegan, by the way, which is pretty cool. Not all of it is, so you just got to read the label, make sure there's no dairy in it. And we're just covering the top one more layer at a time. It's like wrapping a present of delicious food. And one more little spritz. We don't want to saturate this in oil or make it heavy in fat. But this is such a wonderful dish. To have it once in a while, I think, is a great idea. And of course, because this was my kids, especially one of them, really like this dish. They love to participate in making it, and I'm just kind of partial to trying to make this as best you can in a vegan way of putting in the ingredients. Alright, that's our last layer. We're going to just top the final layer and the sides with more of the oil, and we'll use some of the egg as well. The egg replacer, just so we're clear about that. And you can use egg replacer in any recipe, just like you would eggs in a traditional or non-plant-based recipe. So we'll put it down the sides a little bit, put it down the sides, and we're going to just pop this in the oven any moment now. Make sure all the egg replacer is covering the top. And it is ready to go. Well, it it smells so good. I wish you could smell it, but our phyllo dough casserole is done, and it's a nice golden brown on top. So we cut into it. And that phyllo dough is just looking yummy. This keeps in the fridge for a few days, if it lasts that long, just saying. So, hope you enjoy. Can't you smell that steam? I'm Jaffe Jones, the author of Eat Vegan on $4 a Day, The Veg Coach, and the Broccoli Rep, because who else is the Broccoli Rep?